Hi folks, welcome to Crisco's Corner. Unfiltered commentary, and not your truth, the real truth. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for your support. Hi folks, welcome back. I saw this on Fox News. This is part 4 of basically the giant cluster that was the Afghan withdrawal. It was like they wanted to fail on purpose, and not just that, but fail in the most spectacular way, which will cause the least amount of damage to the U.S. military and the United States as a whole, their prestige in the world, the citizens' confidence in its government and military. Because if they didn't do it on purpose, then we have a much bigger problem. Now, this is going to be a little longer video than normal because this is a very important article, I think. So let's get to it. Austin Millie McKenzie could have offered resignation to send powerful message to Biden, retired Colonel Andrew Milburn says. Now, this is a gentleman that's been over 30 years in the military. This is part 4 of a Fox Digital original series about the fall of Kabul and the hectic and heroic 96-hour effort to evacuate Afghans fearing retribution from the Taliban. We left those people behind. President Biden's top military advisors should have predicted Afghanistan's imminent collapse and then offered their resignations if the commander-in-chief refused to modify his withdrawal plans, a former deputy commander told Fox News. Secretary of Defense Austin, Joint Chiefs of Staff Head Mark Milley, and Central Command Kenneth McKenzie. Those are the three you saw testifying before Congress, I believe the Senate, had a responsibility to stand firm if they believed the fast-paced troop withdrawal would end in catastrophe, retired Colonel Andrew Milburn told Fox News. Of those three that he mentioned, the only one I have any remotely respect for besides their service to our country is McKenzie. He carried himself really well. You can tell he did not want to be there, and you could tell he didn't agree with any of this. But he went along with it anyway, and this is kind of what this article is about. Can you imagine if those three, or even two of the three, had offered their resignation? Milburn, a former Special Ops Central Deputy Commander, said, "You don't think that might have caused the president to think twice?" Yeah. He argued that all three are products of the culture the military has fostered that favors leaders who are obedient rather than principled free thinkers. Yes, there's orders in the military, but you still have to be a free thinker too. I think they're products of a culture that has arisen within the U.S. military that simply does not encourage innovative thinking or creative thinking, Milburn, who spent 31 years in the military, told Fox News. That rewards perhaps obedience above all else. Following orders and obedience is not the same. Not even close. You've seen it a million times in movies. And you can ask anybody in the military, permission to speak freely, sir. You know, you have to ask permission for that, and that's fine. They should have said to the president, sir, these three especially, the one on the right, McKenzie's the only one I have any real respect for, except for maybe their military service and the service to our country, which I respect just as a matter of course. But McKenzie, you can tell. You're spent 30, 40 years in the military. You're the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. You're the Secretary of Defense, works at the behest of the president. And you say, sir, this is going to be a giant cluster. If you don't do something else, I will resign. And say why. You got balls enough to do that? Well, these guys should have. Because of the positions they're in a number of years, it took them to get up there. I think with our organization is the Joint Force, we sadly have a culture that does not always see the most strong-willed creative thinkers rise to the top. It is a culture that I think is amiss, and that is one of the huge, huge holes in the progressive leftist ideology. Individualism does not count. Only the group as a whole. Only groupthink, to be honest with you, is what it is. Individual thinking and creativity is not welcome in the progressive leftist ideology. It has now seeped to this level. The ultimate sanction. To date, no one has been held accountable for the failing to predict the Taliban's swift seizure of Kabul while citizens still inhabited the city. The U.S. citizens, excuse me. Milburn said the Afghan government's collapse should have been obvious. How are these three holding themselves responsible? I've seen all three of them during the 90-day period use that term, Milburn said of Austin, Milley, and McKenzie. It's very difficult to explain exactly what that means if you continue in office, he added. Holding yourself responsible often is a prelude to resignation. Not always, but that's really the ultimate sanction. So it was hard to take them seriously. Milburn said the trio had rendered their own words hollow. That's exactly true. Couldn't agree more. He pointed to a September 28th Senate Armed Service Committee hearing, which if you could find it on YouTube here or anywhere, it's fascinating to watch. I've watched the majority of it. It's pitiful. Absolutely pitiful. The answers to questions. No, of course, if there was a D in front of the senator's name, they didn't get some, they basically were apologetic to their position. It's a hearing to find out what happened, not to point blame. If find out what happened, points blame or causes blame, then so be it. Hearing while Milley testified he couldn't resign because the service members in Kabul couldn't refuse their orders. The general said it would be unfair to abandon his duties while enlisted men couldn't. Milburn told Fox News that Milley's testimony showed he didn't have a good understanding of his professional ethics and called his reasoning illogical. If that's the case, if it was unfair to abandon his duties when enlisted men couldn't, that after we were out of Afghanistan, he should have made it public and he should have resigned his commission. While explaining why he didn't resign, Milley also testified that the nation does not want generals to figure out what orders we are going to accept. He emphasized the importance of civilian control. I agree. That's not the point. Anybody that's watched the movie 13 Days, believe me, I know it's a movie and it's not verbatim, but I'm pretty sure that it's close to what happened. And believe me, the generals there did not sit on their laurels. It's the Cuban Missile Crisis. But Milburn said the American public wishes aren't really the only arbiter of making that moral decision because his oath was to the Constitution. It's not necessarily what the American people would like. That's correct. I like a lot of things. I want to be 6 foot, be 34 years old, and have blonde hair. Doesn't mean I'm going to get it. Milburn continued, it is what does he feel his duty to the Constitution is, not any particular person. He's a military man. This is the same guy, by the way, that said at a congressional hearing he wanted to know about white rage, too. How do these kiss asses get this far up the chain? 4-star general, head of the Joint Chiefs. Milley also testified he only serves as an advisor to the president and that the commander-in-chief can choose to ignore his counsel. That's right. He's only an advisor. He can't overrule the president, of course. But he can tell the president, Mr. President, if you do this, it will be a effing disaster. I want no part of this. Therefore, I resign as head of the Joint Chiefs. He's a 4-star general. He's not going to go anywhere. Well, Milburn agreed. He also said that if Austin and McKenzie gave the same advice, that particular order would cause a catastrophe as bad as the Afghan withdrawal when you make a firmer stand. Yeah, they're all looking out for their asses. So Milley, McKenzie, and Austin just said, gentlemen, we know this is a gigantic cluster. We can't let this happen, but we have no authority to stop it. All three of us have to agree to resign. That is the time to stand your ground and simply say, no, boss, I'll give you my resignation, Milburn told Fox News. That should be our collective expectation of these people. Such a move wouldn't be unprecedented. James Mattis, former President Trump's first defense secretary, vacated his post after repeated disagreements with the commander-in-chief. You have a right to have a Secretary of Defense whose views are better aligned with yours, he wrote in his resignation letter. Behrman also argued that Biden's military leaders should have planned for the Taliban's immediate takeover, even if it was considered unlikely. Yeah, it's all scenarios. The worst case scenario, what do we do? And that was the worst case scenario. No one really, without any sense of foresight, would say Biden will yank the troops out and the Afghan government will not collapse, he told Fox News. Yeah, of course. Certainly as military planners, you always have some contingency plan, no matter how unlikely you think an event is to occur. I couldn't agree more. Milburn added, if the events are going to be catastrophic, you plan for that. You do the best you can. And like most plans, especially in war, after the first day, your plan goes out the window anyway. Ask anybody that's seen live combat. Ignoring the ramifications of any decision you make or order that you pass, I suppose, become within that category of SNAFU. And we all know, if not, you don't know what that is, you can look it up. SNAFU means, ultimately, uniformed leaders need to know when to stand against superiors to best serve the nation. As a military professional, our duty isn't simply to follow orders. He told Fox News, there is a point where if we see something that is happening catastrophic to the institution, then doesn't our oath to the Constitution obligate us to take action? Did Biden do anything unconstitutional? No. But to defend the nation from all enemies, foreign and domestic. In this case, I think Biden was the domestic enemy, at least not that he wanted the United States to burn. It's not what I mean by enemy. I mean by he's doing something catastrophically hurtful to the country and the Constitution. Yet McKenzie didn't act on a top Taliban leader's suggestion that the U.S. take responsibility for security over all of Kabul during the evacuation. The four-star general testified during the September 29th House Arms Committee hearing. He said he was unsure if that offer was presented to Biden. Now, this is the part that was amazing to me. Absolutely amazing. And McKenzie's the one out of the three I have the most respect for. McKenzie didn't act on the Taliban leader's suggestion the U.S. take responsibility for security over all of Kabul during the evacuation. It's amazing to me. It was unsure if it was presented to Biden. That was not why I was there. That was not my instruction, McKenzie told the panel. I did not consider it to be a formal offer, and it was not the reason why I was there, so I did not pursue it. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'm not going to get myself involved in a decision like that because I don't want to get blamed. Until next time, goodbye and good luck.